Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mimic Public Speaking Courseware walkthrough event today. My name is Chad Gray, and I'll be hosting and kind of running the show for everyone. It seems like we have a few people who are just entering now, so we'll kind of give them some time to get in here and get settled and everything. In the meantime, while we do that, I did want to do some housekeeping items before we kind of start to kind of give you the lay of the land here. So as you can see, Janice to the right here has already chatted in, which is awesome. Welcome, Janice. Hello to you as well. For those that aren't familiar with this Demio platform, there is the chat feature to the right. Please feel free to use that throughout the presentation to ask questions, to connect with other professors, to share your information, whatever it may be. We want you to feel comfortable speaking up and being allowed to chime in. So, and then we will do our best to answer your questions throughout the presentation. If not, we will definitely get to that little Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, just let them fly. So with that being said, I did want to do a little icebreaker for everyone. So, okay, man, to switch devices, I have to leave. Sounds good. And that brings up a good point, Farah. Thank you. We will be sending the recording of this event to everyone who registered. So if you do have to jump off early, I'll send out a recap email later today, if not tomorrow morning. So thank you for reminding me about that. But I did want to do a little icebreaker for everyone, and I just want to ask where you're from and what it is that you teach. You're all here to see the Mimic Public Speaking simulation, so I'm curious, what class is your main class that you teach, and then also is public speaking a part of that, or do you just teach a public speaking course? I'm very curious as to what those answers are. So let us know where you're tuning in from, and then what classes you teach. I'll start. I don't teach any classes. I do marketing for a living, and I am tuning in from Orem, Utah. I'm one of the remote employees here at Stukent, and we live here in Orem. It's awesome. We love it. So Fair says she teaches promotional strategies, and I teach this course in public speaking or effective presentations. Awesome. That's great. That's really cool. Brenda from Idaho, education teachers. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you could elaborate, please. And then Janice says, I teach at Mohawk College in the advertising program in Hamilton, Ontario. Okay. Our students need good presentation skills, not necessarily public speaking. Got it. Okay, cool. That this simulation will definitely help with that. So let's see. Just want to make sure. Okay, just waiting for a few more people here. I'm a BCIT in Vancouver. Awesome. So it seems like we have a couple people from Canada on here. This is great. Cool. So while we're waiting, Stu is supposed to pop on here in a second, but we're just waiting for him. I did want to invite you all to ProfCon, which if you don't know what ProfCon is, it's the #1 marketing professor conference for educators. So I'm going to share this with you all. If you haven't heard about it, I highly suggest checking it out. I know not all of you teach marketing, but it does have there will be a lot of continuing education speakers and courses and things like that we host here at Stukent, and that we are inviting you to check out at least and see if it's for you. It's kind of unique because the past 2 or 3 years we've done ProfCon, it's been virtual. And the first year we did it, it was in person in West Yellowstone, Wyoming, Montana, one of the two. And and this year we're doing it in person, so it'll be really cool. It'll be in Idaho Falls, where the Stukent headquarters is. So check it out and see if it's a good fit for you. Okay, let's see. Give me 1 second. So we got Brenda, teach teachers and okay, so you educate educators, teach teachers, career technical ed at ISU. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. This is going to be a great presentation. We got a good little webinar for you today to kind of show you our new product, Mimic Public Speaking. Raise the hand in the chat or say me or I do if you were able to catch our last webinar on the public speaking courseware we did a few weeks ago. That just launched recently as well. So I'm curious who here is familiar with that and was able to check that out. So Fair was not able to. We missed you. We missed you, Fair. Yeah, this courseware and simulation just launched within the past couple months, and we're really excited about it. We, as you'll see today, there's a lot of cool features in the sim, and the courseware just has just as many. So we're excited. Let's see. Okay. I was supposed to have Stu hop on to say some things, but I will buy him some more time and play you this hype video real quick, just so you can see how the courseware and the simulation kind of tie together and kind of get a high level overview of what we'll be talking about more in depth today. So I'm going to pull that up for you all and just play it real quick.
Teach your students to command an audience's attention with the Public Speaking Simulation and Courseware Bundle from Stukent. This bundle gives you powerful tools to prepare students to deliver authoritative speeches, presentations, and impromptu remarks. Stukent's Public Speaking Simulation asks students to ideate, compose, and record various types of presentations, and walks them through the process of preparing a speech for a major event. Over 11 rounds, students will develop impromptu, persuasive, and informative oral delivery techniques, practice their critical listening and evaluative skills, and learn how to control their apprehension and anxiety. The simulation pairs perfectly with Tara L. Williams' all-new public speaking courseware. As a professor of marketing, Tara has taught public speaking for over a decade and has developed a full suite of resources for educators, including lesson plans, lecture slide decks, instructional videos, workshops, and more. The Public Speaking Bundle is a great complement to any business or communications course. These resources give your students a platform to practice their public speaking skills outside of class, so that you have more time to teach powerful techniques and strategies in class. With these turnkey, industrial-vetted tools, you can teach your students how to captivate a crowd both in person and online without the stress. Take the hassle out of teaching an effective course and score high marks on your student evaluations with the Public Speaking Bundle from Stukent. If you would like to see how the Public Speaking Bundle can supercharge your classroom, schedule a walkthrough with one of our course consultants today, and be sure to stay current with Stukent.
Awesome. So I popped up the little request access button there for you all. So if you haven't had a chance to yet and you want to follow along with this demo today, go ahead and get your access going. We'll send you an email and make sure you get into the courseware as quickly as possible. If you don't want to mess around with that, that's fine. We'll have Joseph on in a second to kind of go through round by round of the sim so you can check it out for yourself. So let's see. 1 second. See, somebody else just popped on. Hold on, I'm getting a message. Sorry about this, everyone. When the CEO wants to hop on, you got to buy him some time to make sure he hops on and says hi. So that's what I'm doing. So bear with me. There he is. I can see him on now. So Stu, if you're on and can hear me, I can give you a few minutes to say hi to everyone. Give him a second here. I've already warmed him up for you, Stu. There he is.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. And thank you, Chad, for giving me a minute to speak and say hi. I want to thank you all for what you do for your students and for taking a minute with Stukent. I started this company in 2013 with a mission to help educators help students help the world. And one of the ways that we do that is through up-to-date courseware and hands-on learning via simulation. And the marriage of those two things from one provider has been a magical solution for so many. We've been at this now 8.5 years, and during that time helped north of 500,000 students from schools that range from University of Tasmania to Fox Valley Technical College to Stanford, Harvard, UCLA, and all sorts of business schools throughout the globe. We're excited to be expanding outside of just business, public speaking being one of those spaces. This technology that we've created brings the learning experience to life for the student. And we believe that public speaking has evolved a lot over the last 3 years, especially, obviously with the pandemic. And the way that we need to teach public speaking has evolved as well. And so I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I'm most excited about the video technology that we're innovating with. So enjoy today, and please remember, our mission here is help educators, help students, help the world. So tell us what we can do to better help you. Goodbye for now from Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Thanks, Stu. Appreciate it. Awesome. So with that being said, I'll now introduce our presenter for the day, which is going to be Joseph Ovard. He is our in-house educator, so to speak. He teaches everyone about all the products we have and creates educational material for all of the Stukent employees. So his official title is product trainer. So we're happy to have him show us through this Mimic public speaking simulation today. So Joseph, if you don't mind, the time is all yours, my friend.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for everybody for coming. I'm excited to show you this exciting simulation. As Chad said, I am the product trainer here at Stukent. So I provide all the training materials and train all of the Stukent employees on all of these amazing products that we're launching. Let me get my screen sharing open here really quick. So I guess on top of that, just as a general introduction, on top of being the product trainer at Stukent, I'm also an adjunct instructor for Brigham Young University, Idaho. I actually teach a digital marketing class, but I'm super excited about this public speaking simulation. There's some really cool features that really let your students practice in simulated but very realistic scenarios where they really get to practice public speaking. There's a lot of what I'll be going through and showing you guys is some really cool peer review, like self-review and peer review practices as well. So the students in your courses can interact with each other, learn not just about giving themselves feedback on how well they present information, but doing that for their peers. So evaluating themselves and their peers with the same criteria, and really giving them the chance to get that same feedback from their peers as well. So starting off right away, if you're not super familiar with our platform, I'm going to give you just kind of a general introduction. This is what our simulation platform looks like. This is the Mimic Public Speaking Simulation. I'll briefly cover the courseware as well. They're pretty intermingled in the concepts that are covered. So I'll kind of touch on that as well as we go. But I'm going to focus a lot on the simulation today. I could talk about this simulation for a long, long time. So I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible. I tend to jabber on for quite a while, actually, as Brenda Jacobson, who's in the audience today, could attest. So let me start by just kind of showing you every one of our simulations has an introduction round where students are introduced to the simulation through both video and through an inbox, which they'll interact with throughout the rest of it before they jump into the actual individual rounds. A quick note as I navigate around in the simulation, I'll be using a handy little feature we have here for instructors where you can jump around to different parts of the simulation. Students can't do that. They have to use the side navigation and these continue and get started and run simulation buttons that are down at the bottom. But you as the instructor, just the link that Chad shared earlier on how to get free instructor access will let you preview kind of the student side. But when you create a course and you have instructor access to this courseware and to this simulation, you're able to jump around and look at all the different rounds and all the different interactions and assignments that your students will have without actually having to play through it like your students do. So to start out, in the introduction round, your students will be able to, they'll first watch a video. It's welcome to Mimic Public Speaking. It's kind of a walkthrough, show them how to navigate, where all the buttons are, kind of basic stuff, and explaining what they're going to be doing. So in this particular simulation, students are entering a coaching program that's preparing them to present at a conference called IdeaCon, similar to kind of TEDx. These experts are going and sharing and giving public speeches. And so they're entering this coaching program where they're going to be practicing these fundamentals and these different types of presenting information and communication, all preparing for their final presentation that they really hone in and present in the last 2 rounds. And so, in fact, I'll show you in the courseware as well. There's a whole course calendar that really kind of helps you schedule and organize for a class how you would structure these two, the courseware and the simulation together, and structure all of that as well. So, sorry, back to the sim. Like I said, I can jabber on a little bit too long. So they'll watch the introduction video, learn about the basic navigation of the simulation. It shows them during the simulation, here's what you're going to be learning, here's what you're going to be doing. And then they have the inbox. So in the introduction round, in the inbox, they're going to start out with an introduction to IdeaCon. They'll be given, like a little speaker itinerary where they can, they're on the itinerary as a speaker at IdeaCon. And now they're joining a coaching program with their coach, public speaking coach, Patrick. And he's going to be the ones that are kind of guiding the students through the simulation, through those introduction videos that they have each round. And then there's a coaching schedule that'll just kind of show them the schedule and how they're going to be practicing these things in the coaching program. So if they click Get Started Now, it'll send them right into round 1. I'm going to go ahead and use this little navigation here just to kind of show you very quickly. So the way this simulation works, students will, again, they'll have self-review and peer reviews. I'll kind of explain some different features with peer review and how to assign that to your students and set due dates and all that kind of stuff. That's all kind of built into our instructor portal. But as students start round 1, right away, they're going to have self-review and peer review. So this is definitely set up for a class in which multiple students are going to be going through it asynchronously, going through it at the same time. Because there are certain things students do have to complete a peer review before they can move on to the next round of the simulation. There are different settings for how much peer review you want each student to do and all that kind of stuff. And if students don't make a deadline, how all that works. But for round 1, now each round in the simulation, the top 3 tabs are going to be the same for each round. They'll have different assignments that they'll do each round. These top 3, the scenario tab, the inbox, and the notifications hub, will be at the beginning of each and every round, kind of introducing what this round is all about. So in the scenario tab, they're going to be watching a video from their speaking coach. The first one is very introductory, introducing how it's going to work. And then below that, they'll have the list of tasks that they're going to do this week. And this week, they're actually going to deliver an excerpt from a children's book after they do a couple other things, and then do a self-review and a peer review of that video that they submit. So I can show you, because they're in this little demo course I have, there aren't any other students. I do have another course where I have completed the simulation, so I can show you what that peer review looks like in the student results tab. But I can't show you in as much detail in this course, just because I'm the only student in the course. So, like I said, in each round, the scenario tab, they'll watch the video, they'll look at their tasks. In the inbox, oftentimes in the video, the speaker will say, "Hey, I'll check your inbox for more details," things like that. So the video is kind of the introduction, the storyline side, and the inbox is much more detailed. Tells them about the notifications hub that they'll be doing each round. This week, they're going to be going through different public speaking scenarios and really working on communication. Each round, they'll have a chance to really practice a specific type of public speaking or a specific foundational concept, and then they'll actually submit something that's going to be self-reviewed or peer-reviewed or both. So in this round, it's not going to, the first interaction is not going to be as much recording themselves, but they will by the end of the round. So the inbox has all the really detailed information. They're going to get a guide on the models of communication that they're going to use this round. Anything that is in the inbox that they can download, if they click on it, it will just open it up in a new tab, and they'll be able to do it that way. And so it'll give them step-by-step instructions. And then anything that they will need this round will also be in their resource drawer. This will be in that introduction video from that introduction round as well. If they click on that, they'll be able to see anything that they need to. Here's the peer feedback rubric, background information for the different scenarios they're going to be interacting with this round, and then that model of communication guide. So any resources that they need to complete the round, they can access at any time, regardless of what page they're on. So now in the notifications hub, they're going to be answering questions from other students in the coaching program. And this is an interaction that is or an assignment that's not scored in the simulation. It's basically a knowledge check. So one of their fellow students will ask them a question. You will answer that question, and they'll get immediate feedback saying, yes, that's right, or no, that's not right, or this answer could have been better. And there will always be an explanation as to why. So it's a knowledge check. It'll also tell them, hey, in chapter 2 of the courseware, which we'll go over in just a bit, and it will tell them why that answer wasn't the best or why it was the right answer. And they'll get that immediate feedback on how well they answered those questions. Maybe if I get one right, it'll show up green. No, they're all yellow. I didn't do a very good job on these ones. I was going too quick. So once they do these first 3 tabs, scenario, inbox, notifications hub, now they're ready to start the round specific interaction. So these will be different every time, but they'll be the same. So I won't explain these top 3 anymore. We'll jump right into the round specific interactions as well. So once they finish those 3, now we're going to jump into public speaking scenarios. Now, every single tab in our simulations gives instructions to the students so that they know exactly what to do. They even have in their resources the background information for each one of these scenarios. So now this is a really cool interaction. It's basically a way to practice effectively communicating in 3 very unique situations. So let me give you a little preview of what this looks like. They're going to click and they're going to jump into a waiting room. We'll enter the call. And first we're going to hear from a coach that's going to kind of introduce us to the situation. Let me know in the chat if you can hear the audio coming in.
In the following scenario, you're meeting with a fellow classmate named Sarah. You are working with her and 3 other students on a group project. The group project is the final assignment for your class and is worth 30% of your final grade. Everyone in the group has been collaborating on the project and finishing their work on time, except for Sarah. She has barely contributed to the project and hasn't communicated much with the group. With 14 days left until the due date, you've decided to meet with Sarah to convince her to start participating in the assignment. With that, go ahead and select a greeting to start the conversation.
So with the exception of this very first one, that's kind of an automated video, the rest of these interactions, we actually got actors to play the other side of the conversation. And there's an important reason why.
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
So how they answer these questions. So this first part is very much just kind of, all right, how am I going to effectively communicate what I'm trying to say? So, and depending on how they answer, if they answer the right way to communicate what they're trying to say or the wrong way, they'll get a very different response in the video. So if I say something that's not all that kind and kind of lash out, she'll respond in kind.
Excuse me, but I feel like this is coming out of nowhere. What makes you think that I'm not doing enough for the group? I'm seriously doing all that I can. Are you calling me lazy? Is this some sort of joke? If it is, I don't think it's very funny.
So they'll go through these calls and they'll get scored for every single response that they give and how they react to how the call is going. At any point, the student can leave the call and they'll get scored accordingly if they don't finish it as well. So for now, I'm going to leave the call. So this first, they're going to be put into 3 different scenarios. The first one is the group project. The second one is you're calling a theater manager for a theater that you own, and you're trying to get her to enforce a company policy. The third one is a mentorship scenario where you're trying to get someone to mentor you. And they'll each, have a chance to kind of have that call go well or not. And it's all about effectively communicating what they're trying to say. So that's the first interaction. The IdeaCon speech, now this is just a chance for them to kind of conceptualize it. If they're going to speak at IdeaCon, here's what I'm going to speak about, and just kind of do a write-up. This is something that they'll submit. It's something that you can view and grade however you want from the grade book in our platform. But they will turn this in as just kind of the basic concept for their IdeaCon speech that they will not complete until the very end of the simulation. So this is just the very beginning concept. And then they'll actually have a chance to record a excerpt from a children's book. So when they're doing this part of it, again, they'll have instructions. They'll record a new video, and they're actually going to be reading the excerpt, so they have a chance to customize, how fast, how slow the font and everything is. They can even do different themes on how they want to do it. When they click save, it will pull up a video where they're actually going to record them reading this. And so once I hit that record button, it's going to give me a countdown, and I'll start The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. And it'll scroll. If it's scrolling too fast, they can also pause and start the scrolling as they record. When they click stop, they'll be able to rewatch it and decide whether or not they want to record a new one, or if they mess up too much and they don't want to submit it, they can re-record it before they actually submit. Now, when they submit that recording, it will process the upload. Then they'll have a chance to self-review and peer review. I'm going to let this process real quick so I can show you what that self-review looks like. The peer review is going to look very similar. You're just going to peer review up to 3 of your students or your fellow classmates' submissions as well. It's a fairly short video, so it should upload pretty quick. But the way, while that's uploading, and before I move on to further rounds, which I'll get through a little bit quicker, I promise. I won't keep you here all day. But there it is. So here's the video that I recorded. I'm going to go to my self-review, and then it'll tell me, carefully watch your speech and provide yourself feedback. So here's my self-review. I can watch it again, and then I'm going to, give myself a score on how well I did. And in the results panel, you'll actually be able to see how much or how well aligned your feedback is with your peer feedback. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment here. And then they'll be able to give, some written feedback as well on how well they did. So they can say, oh, I did great, in this reading. And then I can, go into detail. And once that's all done, I can move on to the peer review. I don't have any assigned reviews yet because, like I said, I'm the only student in this course. that's done any work yet. So that's round one. So, and I'll show you what the results look like. I'm going to kind of go through a basic explanation of the rounds, and then I'll go through and show you what all that the student results page looks like for each round. So moving on to round two. So I forgot to give you a basic explanation as well. So there's different parts. So they're going to have 3 rounds of just public speaking foundations in 3 different parts where they'll get to practice different things and get feedback. Then they're going to work and have 2 rounds of learning impromptu speeches, 2 rounds of persuasive, 2 rounds of informative, all the while in each of these rounds, and I think in almost every single round, they're going to be whittling away and practicing different aspects of preparing for their IdeaCon speech. And then at the very end, the last 2 rounds are going to be preparing for and delivering that IdeaCon speech. So for part 2 of foundations, after those first 3 tabs, we're going to go through speech topics. So we're going to conduct a ice-breaking activity, and then review a rubric for brainstorming, and then brainstorm IdeaCon speeches. So this one is going to be responding to prompts. So I'll enter the waiting room. Now this is going to be, it'll give them instructions, make a recording that's at least 2 minutes, but no longer than 3. Make sure your camera and audio are working. We'll click start, and then it'll give me a prompt. Describe anything and everything a brick can be used for, including things that are non-traditional and random. So they'll record a video that'll be right there up front. That's at least 2 minutes and less than 3. That will be responding to that prompt up there. I'm going to go back to that, and then the next one will be conducting the brainstorm for an IdeaCon speech topics. So for this one, they're only going to be peer reviewed, not self-reviewed for these videos that they're doing for their brainstorm session. And the next thing they're going to do is actually look at an outline for a city hall speech and rank it according to the PIBOK framework. Again, in their resources, I'm skipping through the inbox and all that kind of stuff. So there's rubric for the brainstorm and what you're going to be peer reviewing for, and then mapping ideas. So they're going to be using this framework to evaluate this City Hall speech. So they're going to read through it, and they're going to say, how well does this speech communicate its purpose? Did okay, did excellent, did poor, and they're going to evaluate that speech and then peer review their classmates' IdeaCon speech topic brainstorm videos. It's only 2 minutes long. It doesn't take long to peer review other students' work. So in Foundations Part 3, before we move on to Impromptu, after the scenario, inbox, and notifications hub, they're going to learn how to evaluate audiences or analyze audiences. So there's 2 different scenarios. One is going to be kind of a guided way of how to analyze an audience. And then for IdeaCon, it's a lot more unstructured and they have to kind of do a lot more themselves. So they're given a list of audience members. This is the mayor and the city council that we're preparing this speech for, or analyzing that speech for in the last round. And we're going to be given some guided, all right, what kind of a situation is this? What level of knowledge does my audience have? That kind of a thing. So it's a little bit more guided, but they're analyzing an audience for that City Hall speech. And then once they've had that chance to kind of practice and get an idea of what they're doing, they're going to go to the IdeaCon audience and analyze that audience. So they review the audience analysis criteria. They're going to review the IdeaCon stats and analyze the audience. But this is a lot more unstructured. They're given, the audience stats in their resources. They're given, some audience analysis guidance, as well as the stats for the IdeaCon audience itself. And these will be in their inbox. So if they don't want to look at it in this view, they can always download the full PDF or view the full PDF in their browser as well. And then they're going to analyze the IdeaCon audience and submit that as a written assignment. So that's foundations. That's the first 3 rounds of the simulation. And now we move on to impromptu. And so for each one of these, impromptu, persuasive, and informative, they're going to have kind of a practice round and then a submission round. For the practice round, they're going to do some impromptu speeches and then do a self-review. And in part 2, they're going to record their final impromptu speeches after they've practiced in the previous round, and that will be peer reviewed. So that'll be the structure for the next 6 rounds, will be kind of practice and then submission. They do have a submission for the practice round. They have assignments each round, but they don't have any peer review from their classmates until that second round. So after those first 3 tabs, we're going to go into actually building an impromptu speech. They're going to be given 3 different prompts and kind of given some choices on how they want to frame that impromptu speech, based on those prompts right there. Not something that they've prepared in advance. They're just kind of working on how the speeches are structured. So they'll have 3 different scenarios where they're kind of structuring the information so they know how to present that information. And then practicing those impromptu speeches is really a good example of impromptu speeches. So they enter the waiting room. Again, they're given a prompt, but this time they've got a quick response. They can't wait and just do it whenever they want. They click start.
I really enjoyed your speech. What motivated you to speak about that subject?
Now they have 5 seconds. They don't have to wait the 5 seconds. They can just hit record, but it'll do it automatically, and they have to respond to that in less than 2 minutes. And this is something that in this round, they'll self-review for the next round. They'll do the final submission. So they'll click stop. Once I submit this video, it will upload it and then send me to my second impromptu speech practice.
What got you interested in public speaking? I could never do that.
And then again, 5-second delay or start right away. And then I can just talk on that impromptu speech and then submit that video. And that's something that they're going to, and if they're reading the instructions, they'll know what the situation is and how they need to respond. And once those are processed, then they'll go to self-review and they'll be able to self-review both of those videos. So for the second impromptu round, they're going to go to and analyze some different resources or evaluate these different resources. So they're going to look at each of these resources and say, hey, is it current? Is it relevant? Does it have authority? Is it accurate? Is it the purpose of the sources to increase understanding and how applicable it is to this resource? And then once they rank the different resources and it gets a score, so this one's 17 based on the CRAP framework to be explained, that current, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. They're going to go down to the bottom, and then once they finish them all, they're going to look at the scores that they gave each one and make a selection on which one is the best resource for that particular situation. And then they'll do their final impromptu speeches. The same kind of thing where they're going to be recording. It's at least 2 minutes, but no longer than 2.5 minutes, and they'll go and do their final recording, which will be both self-reviewed and then peer-reviewed. And I'll show you what those look like real quick before we're done for the day. So now on to persuasive. This one, we're going to be analyzing different persuasive speeches, short ones. We're going to be evaluating and how persuasive those speeches were. Again, in our resources, we're given guidance on what frameworks and all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to be outlining our own persuasive speech. Just draw a rough outline of that persuasive speech. And then identifying actual resources that they can use for their persuasive speech, and listing the resources that they're going to be using, and then doing a practice persuasive speech. So they have their outline, and now they're actually going to practice and record that persuasive speech. And then it'll be self-reviewed because this one is the practice. And then in the second persuasive round, we're going to be outlining our IdeaCon speech. So we've already practiced outlining a persuasive speech. Now we're going to outline our IdeaCon speech. And we want to review the mapping ideas guide in our resources and then outline. So they have all the resources they need to map out their ideas, and they've already practiced. And then the concept for our IdeaCon speech and our audience analysis and our research and our outline for our persuasive speech is all right here available for them as they're drawing their outline for their IdeaCon speech. And then as students go, they can actually see all the results from the different rounds they've completed. And so they can go back and see those results as well on that page. But anything that they'll need for that particular round is just in that resources box right there. And then we'll do their final recording for our persuasive speech. So again, as we go throughout the simulation, we'll be doing different activities for that IdeaCon speech leading up to the end. And then as we're working on different parts of public speaking. And then that final recording, just like the last one, will be self and peer reviewed. So we're already running short on time. I'm going to go through these last four pretty quick. And then finally, we're going to informative speeches. So again, we're going to analyze informative speeches, evaluate how well they were done, outline an informative speech, and then give that informative speech. So again, in their resources, they'll have everything that they need to do what they need for that round. And then they do that practice, self-review it. And then in the last informative round, they're going to actually be creating a presentation that will then be peer reviewed before they do their final informative speech. So they're practicing getting a presentation put together for a speech because that's what they're going to do for their IdeaCon speech. So for this one, we're going to, choose a design, choose a theme. They can enter a title for that theme, and then they're actually going to enter and create slides. Create more slides. They can put all sorts of stuff in there just to be quick. With some different ideas. And then they can review that slide deck, see how well they like it as individual slides before they submit it. Once it is submitted, that's then available to be peer reviewed by their classmates. So they're practicing getting an actual presentation put together, which is peer reviewed, and then they're doing a final recording of that informative speech. So which will then be self and peer reviewed. So that's working through the three different types of speech that we're working after: foundations, impromptu, persuasive, informative. And the last two rounds, like I said, are going to be working on our IdeaCon, that big final presentation that's submitted in the last round, the final cut for IdeaCon. So in round 10, now instead of one little activity for IdeaCon, they're going to be going through and actually preparing. They're going to actually draft their speech. They're going to create their presentation for the speech so they can go through again and create that presentation. I'll give a few here just to show. And that one is just creating the presentation. They're not submitting it for peer review, but they are going to practice their IdeaCon speech. Now this one, because it's that big final piece, when they record the video, they'll actually record the video with their presentation right there at the beginning. So they're working on presenting information in an effective way. They don't want to just put everything on the slides and then read off the slides, how to present that information well. And they're able to, navigate between different slides. When they click record, they'll be able to go and navigate those slides however they want to. And then this is the practice round. So they're going to self-review that video before the final cut, when they are have a chance to edit the one that they've already created, the presentation they've already created, and then do that final recording. Now I'm going through these really fast just for the sake of time at the webinar today, but students will spend a lot of time on some of these assignments, really drafting up solid ideas for a project that's leading all the way up to the end of the semester. So like I said, real quick before we're done, I'll show you the courseware and how it all kind of ties in. And especially the resources in the courseware that kind of show you how to structure and pace out all the work that the students are doing. Because all the while, if they're doing a full semester course and you've got both the courseware and the simulation bundled together, you've got a full course that kind of guides you through how to present the information. So they'll record that final IdeaCon speech, again, with that slide presentation that they have a chance to kind of edit and tweak as needed. And that final IdeaCon speech will be self-reviewed and peer-reviewed. So real quick, as a student, just to show you, students are able to see, so here's my course where I finished everything. And I showed you the other one that was blank so I could show you what the interactions looked like. Because once students complete something, they can't go back and do it again. So if I went into round one and tried to jump into the scenarios, they're already done. I couldn't show you what it looked like. And so if I look at the results from Foundations Part 1, those scenarios, this is that feedback I was showing you. So at the end of that first round, students will see how well they did for each scenario. And it will give them individual feedback. So I did good, but not perfect. And it'll give me feedback saying, hey, this is friendly in tone, but it doesn't use evidence to show. And so it'll give them feedback on every single selection that they made. And they'll get this right after they submit the round. And they'll be able to, it'll be fresh in their minds. Oh yeah, I should have said this instead because, I shouldn't have said this because it gives that immediate feedback. And then they'll get their conceptualization. They'll get that. They'll be able to review. So here's what the self and peer review looks like as a student if they're looking at that. And you'll be able to see all this too as the instructor without actually going into a student, logging in as a student. From the instructor portal, you can click on any student, any round, and see the results from that round. It's really simple. So the self-review, and it'll say, hey, you've rated yourself higher than your peers. So I said I did great. My peers said it was okay. And I'll be able to re-watch and kind of reevaluate.
The Tale of Peter Rabbit.
And they'll be able to kind of give us different feedback on different on that rubric that we were given. So here's what the peers gave me. Here's my response. And then here's my feedback. Here's my peers' feedback. It's all kind of grouped together so you can see how your own self-review matches up with your peer reviews, which is really effective for learning. You can kind of see, well, am I overconfident or things like that. So there's some really cool features that let students really effectively practice some of these scenarios and get that immediate feedback right after the round is done. In round two, they'll be able to see how well they did or not and why for, the different evaluations they're doing, and then the peer review and self-review and things like that. So the way that you see that in the instructor portal, like I said, I don't have students in the course, in this course, but a basic preview of the instructor portal. So here is the student results tab in the instructor portal. This is for a different simulation, but just to kind of give you an idea, when students complete rounds, they'll be able to click on any one of these rounds. So if I wanted to look at, any students' round 3 results or what videos they submitted, I click on that and it will pull up those same results that the students see when they are looking at their round 3 results. So you'll be able to see everything your students submit just right there from the instructor portal without having to go into the student view or anything like that. And then lastly, Just to show you really quick, in the courseware, the public speaking courseware, learning to share with confidence and purpose, there's an entire class schedule right up here at the top past the table of contents. It's an instructor resource. You can see the different parts. Anything with this little file folder with the person in it right here, that is an instructor resource. So which you can download at any time. So here's the class schedule for week 1. Here's the material. Here's the instructor documents that support it for each week of the semester and what students will be working on in that week. There's also a whole sample syllabus that'll already be pre-written that you can kind of fill in your information and how you want to assess and grade different aspects of the simulation and all of that, as well as the quizzes and things like that are in the actual courseware. So that's pretty much it. I'm sure there were tons of questions. I wasn't watching the chat as I was presenting this, but we'll let Chad hop back on for the last few minutes here and lead the Q&A session here. I'll stay on to answer any questions we have, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, great job, Joseph. We appreciate it. There wasn't any questions throughout the presentation, but we'll kind of stall here to maybe let some people ask their lingering questions. But in the meantime, I did want to share a link as well. I know everyone just got a demo today, but if you want to dive deeper into a demo, a more one-on-one type of demo, here's a link that you can use to schedule one. And on that note as well, I wanted to share my screen real quick to show everyone, one second, other products that we have here at Stukent, just in case. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Oh yeah, we'll get to the cost per student here in a second. Sorry about that, Janice. Here's some other products we have. If you're unfamiliar, we have products in digital marketing. We have social media marketing, advertising and communications, including personal branding and business communications. We have business products. Let's see, finance, personal finance, market research and analytics, marketing foundations, lots of products that you might be unfamiliar with and might want to check out. So if you do want to do that, I will send a link in the chat as well. And let me do that real quick.
But I would definitely suggest, if you do have any questions, sometimes a webinar is kind of an awkward way to get those really detailed questions or questions that are specific to your course. Then please reach out to your course consultants. They're very knowledgeable and they'll be able to walk you through everything in detail. I know, because I train them. They're very good at what they do.
Exactly. So here's the cost per student. The simulation alone would be $69.99 per student. The courseware alone would be $79.99. And then if you bundle them together for a semester, per student would be $129.99. So that's a savings of $19.99 per student by bundling the courseware and the simulation. So not a bad deal for students. I mean, oh yeah, there we go. Thanks, Stu, for sharing that. That's a link that you can go to check out more and kind of get your commitment going yourself by requesting access and getting connected with a course consultant. So yeah, this has been a great webinar. Thank you, Joseph. I don't see any questions. So your training and demonstration went really well, apparently.
Awesome.
Yeah. So great, guys. And like I said, we will send this out, send a recording of this webinar out soon, either today or tomorrow morning. So be on the lookout for that. And tell your colleagues about this awesome new courseware and simulation. This is going to be a great thing for students. Lots of cool things that they'll be able to do with this simulation. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see you on the next one.